Isabella Jardine Trotter, the clever schoolgirl from Madras Academy who became a Southern pioneer matriarch. Isabella Dalrymple was born here in Coupar Angus in 1828. Her father William was a prosperous merchant in this bustling little town, and no doubt she enjoyed a pretty comfortable childhood at their home here in Commercial Street. She and her elder sister Learmonth were educated privately in Edinburgh and then here at Madras College in St Andrews. They also travelled extensively around Britain and Europe and learned to speak fluent French. It is not known what prompted the widowed William Dalrymple to move to New Zealand with Lee and Isabella and 3 of his younger children. They left Gravesend, England in 1853 and travelled on board the Raja, a ship struck with misfortune during its voyage. According to one passenger's recollection, a pirate ship circled the Raja, and the captain ordered all women and children up on deck and supplied them with weapons. The pirates fortunately left the ship and the immigrants on board unscathed. Violent storms also battled the Raja and severely damaged its stern. After an eventful voyage, the ship duly arrived in Port Chalmers in 1853 for repairs before sailing on to Wellington, where the Dalrymples were scheduled to disembark. Soon after arrival, however, they returned to Otago to settle. Isabella's father purchased 500 acres at Goodwood on the banks of the Pleasant River near Waikouaiti and began farming. It was there that Isabella met William Sinclair Trotter, a young farmer from Caithness who had arrived in the area on board the Magnet in 1840. The couple married at the Dalrymple family home, Brooklands, in 1855 and set up house in a small cottage at nearby Kartigi, where William was leasing a sheep run. Their firstborn son Alexander died there in 1856 and was buried on a spot behind the family cottage still marked by an old matriarch tree on the property. But thereafter they had 7 more children, all of whom grew to adulthood. In 1857, Isabella's father and her siblings moved to Kaiheku in South Otago, where he roughed it as a shepherd while building up his flock, even though he was in his 50s. The Trotters also moved on from Kartigi in the late 1850s, though they held on to some of the land that they had worked here, and it's still farmed by descendants all these generations later. Isabella and William took up sheep runs in the area below Lake Wakatipu and called their property here Greenvale. They were probably the first Pākehā to farm in this district. But later they moved further south to Woodlands, where they built a more substantial home that they called Roslyn. Along with raising 7 children, Isabella somehow found the time to become heavily involved in charity events. Her obituary, for instance, compared her to a mother in Israel for her charitable contributions, and acknowledged her life as an example of courage and endurance. Isabella's sister Learmonth also campaigned for social change in the colony, and she's credited with being behind the foundation of Otago Girls High School, and then agitating for equal rights for women at the foundation of the University of Otago in 1869. Isabella, meanwhile, continued her charitable activities after her children had all grown up, and she died at Woodlands in 1910, 17 years after William.